Hello, this is Success. How may I help you?
First off, Brian, I want you to introduce yourself and exactly what it is that you do.
Well, my name is Brian Bajan, founder of The Fearless Man, and we basically help coach men into their confidence. I mean, that's the short of it, into their real confidence, real self-esteem, teaching them to embodiment, connection to their emotions, connection to their ability to handle tension, which is life is filled with tension, and to be able to step into it like a man and be able to handle it and actually enjoy it. You know, and tension is synonymous with stress and responsibility, and actually learn like men used to go out and have fun making things happen in the world. You know, in a way that benefits and helps other people. So, and we started out as dating coaches, and but we've kind of, through the process of being a dating coach, which we still teach dating, realized that dating was all about self-esteem, self-love, confidence, that type of stuff. So
Yeah. All right. So, Brian, how exactly did you get started, and how'd you get to where you got today? Like, what made you get started?
Got started. So it's an interesting question, and people have asked me that before, and I would say I've always done it in a weird sort of way. When I was a child, I was super shy. I grew up with a fairly rough upbringing, you know, like a lot of people. But because I modeled so much introversion, I became super introverted myself, and I didn't really talk much, and didn't like to leave the house. I was also very sickly. I had a lot of gut problems, which leads to a lot of introversion. Didn't know it, and I had no clue. Doctors didn't understand it back then. They didn't know what was wrong with me. They said, "Oh, you're just that way. You like to sleep a lot. You like to sleep 14 hours a day. Here's a pill. You're depressed." And that really wasn't the issue. So after giving up on doctors and doing a lot of work myself and exploring everything from meditation to yoga to reading every personal growth book on the shelf to trying to figure out why I was antisocial, my life started to change. I started to become more outgoing. I started to become more connected to people. I became a hypnotherapist. I started to work with a lot of codependency and weight loss, and I started to give a lot of advice to people. And it was interesting because I was studying dating a little bit loosely, how dating works, and people would come to me for dating advice, and I'd give it to them, and it would work, but my dating life still sucked. They would just ask me questions because I'd read all this stuff, and I realized that there was some missing link. Like, what was happening was really interesting to me because I understood what would work, but I couldn't do it. Yeah. And that was the problem. It's like I could see this would work, but I don't have the balls to go do it. I don't have the energy to go do it. And when I did do it, it didn't work because I was so fighting myself the whole time, you know. And now looking back, I know I wasn't congruent with it. I wasn't owning it. And so the question became for me is, what techniques do I need to use? Because I knew that.
Yeah.
And I didn't care about that anymore. What became about me was, how do I change my nervous system so I relax around beautiful women, and my confidence, I actually feel like I deserve them, and I can provide value for them and in return, and we can all have a great time together, not because I need to win them over, but because that's just who I am. Yeah. And because I asked myself one day, I said, what is a guy that's really good with women, how does he think? Does he think when he goes out, does he think, I hope I meet a girl tonight? No, he's not going to think that. I hung out with naturals for a while, and I was like, a lot of them actually, and they didn't think like that. They expected, like, well, why wouldn't a woman like me?
Yeah.
I'd ask them, what do you say to girls? And they would always say, especially, sorry about that. Let me kill that. I'm going to kill that sound. Go away. There we go. So I would say to them, what do you do to get girls? How do you get them so interested in you? I'm taking up one in particular, my friend Daniel, the first one I really started to hang out with a lot. And he said, what do you mean? I said, what do you do? He goes, I just talk to him. Just talk to him. And that's when I realized they weren't going to be able to explain anything to me. I had to watch them and observe them. And so I spent a lot of time observing. And what I realized after I had enough teachers, and I found a really good teacher that had nothing to do with dating. He was all about embodiment and connecting to, really building true confidence in the body. That I had it up here but my nervous system hadn't embodied it yet. I was thinking about it too much and not feeling it enough. And it's not even about doing, because you can do too much too. You can do so much that's like lifting too much weight. You go to the gym and lift way more weight than your body can handle, you're going to hurt yourself. And so that's the next thing I saw. I'd go out and see guys doing a lot, hurting themselves, like becoming more walled off, more shut down, more numbed out, and getting rejected more and more. And I was like, well, that's not the answer either. So there has to be something missing piece, and that's what the work became about. And so that I after studying with him for years, 4 years with him, really learning a lot about embodiment and the mind, and how the body and the mind are one, how the gut and the gut brain works, and how emotions flow, how we have emotional transference or positive inception, which is in positive psychology, they talk about how emotions transfer from person to person. I realized that all these years of valuing my powerful analytical mind was my problem. And I needed to get out of my head and stop thinking so much and start learning to be somebody who feels and moves in what we call a proactive way. We teach proactive energy here, and that's being in time with the energy, the vibration of the moment. So I'll give you a quick example on that, and then I'll and what I realized was, to grow, there's a sweet spot, just like lifting weights. Okay. And if you lift too much weight, you're going to hurt yourself. If you lift too little weight, nothing's going to happen. You don't have the right nutrition. So there's all these little factors that go into building muscle, to really building a muscle or conditioning a body. And you got to get the balance right for each person. Each person's different. Well, it's the same thing with mental growth too. Another great example is if you're surfing and you're trying to catch a wave. If you swim too fast, you're going to be ahead of the wave. If you swim too slow, you're going to miss the wave. You got to get the timing just right to be able to stay in vibrational alignment with that wave, to be able to ride that wave. It's the same thing when you're going out to talk to girls. If you get that vibration right, you'll grow really fast. It's a space and a time where you feel people, and that's when I saw that. I saw that it really sped up my growth a lot, because then I saw that I would work on finding that sweet spot all the time, where I would grow the most.
Yeah, that's kind of I've watched some of your stuff, watching some other people's stuff as well, because I'm very into personal development. That's why I'm doing this, to help other people be able to meet more people that they might not have known. And so I think that's where you guys talk about tension. I hear a lot about tension online, and it's like embracing it instead of going away and just playing and like having fun with yourself and with the other person rather than thinking about it. Yeah,
we grow through tension, right? Not like you need gravity or atrophy and die. You need tension to build muscle. If you're going to learn a foreign language, you got to stress the brain a little bit. I mean, if you think you're going to learn anything without tension, you're kind of crazy. Now there's too much tension, which, like, if I get a massage and it's too much tension, it's going to hurt. Too little is going to be boring. But just the right spot is going to feel great. It's another great example. A good amount of tension, it can be a blast. There's really good TED Talk you could check out, and the people watching could check out. It's called How to Make Stress Your Friend by Kelly McGonigal. 17 minutes long. It's a really good TED Talk on tension and stress. She uses the term stress, which is the same thing. And what they found is, after, how long was it, 8 years or something like that? They studied like 30,000 people. They found a whole bunch of groups of people that had low stress, medium stress, high stress. And then they asked them, do you have a lot of tension? Do you believe tension is good for you or bad for you? And at the end of the study, the two groups that stood out was both groups had a lot of stress, but one group thought tension was good for them, one group thought tension was bad for them. And the group that thought tension was bad for them had the most illnesses, most challenges, most problems, most failures. And the group that thought tension was good for them had a lot of tension, had the most success, best health, and best growth. So the realization of this study was that tension wasn't the problem. It was your belief systems and around tension. Are you reactive to it? Are you running from it? Are you avoiding it? Or are you stepping in and embracing it, enjoying it, playing with it? And you think of the most successful people in the world, like the Richard Bransons of the world, they step into so much tension. It's incredible. And they love it. They get off on it,
Right.
Yeah.
So, Brian, what do you think your greatest struggle was, and how do you think you overcame it?
My greatest struggle, it's a good question because I've had a lot of struggles. I mean, really, I was shut down as a child, and that's really my greatest struggle, was getting past my depression, really, because I was depressed. I was numbed out. My gut was super damaged. I didn't know I had bad leaky gut, bad candida, and I didn't like to leave the house. And so climbing out of that initial hole is probably my greatest success. Getting to the point where I actually like talking to people and socializing and going out the door, and to where now I just do it without thinking. It's part of who I am. But it's not one thing. It was healing the body and the mind simultaneously, realizing actually, and there was another period in my life. Let me talk about that one, because there was several periods like this. There was one period where I had grown a lot and I had started making a lot of money and I had a good business and everything was working in my life, but I wasn't happy. Okay. I was still pushing. I was state pumping and pushing my way to the top. I would drink Red Bulls and rock stars, energy drinks every day to get to work. If I went out to go meet girls, I'd have to drink vodkas and Red Bulls and state pump myself, and I just felt like crap. I was literally draining my body of all its energy. So where was I getting my motivation to do anything? It was from artificial sources. Otherwise, I felt like shit. And so my business started to take off, and I reached this point where I made the most money I'd ever made in my life, and I got more miserable than I'd ever been in my life because of the fact that more people were seeing me. Here I was taking off, and I was too tired to service all my clients and do my thing. And so I realized I needed to back up. So I shrunk the business way down to almost nothing. I almost quit it altogether, and I spent a year cleansing my body of every toxin I could think of and healing it, working on my gut, because I'd actually reached a point where I peed blood and had blood in my throat at one point from all the damage inside my body. And during that period was really rough, because as I was detoxing, I took it seriously. I didn't go a little bit at a time. I went balls to the wall. Like I cut everything out at once, and I was laying in bed shaking at night. I'm having horrible dreams. I'm thinking I'm gonna die, and I reached a point where one night I woke up and had a dream about dying, and in the dream I swore I was dead, and I don't know how. I didn't think you could have a dream like that, and I woke up from a dream like that, and I was freaked out. And I have to play this really relaxing music just to fall asleep. That was a period of my life that lasted. It started. Overall, it was probably about a year of detox, of cleaning and working and healing my gut and doing tons of meditation. I'd meditate 5, 6, 8 hours sometimes in a day, doing lots of what we call releasing work and things like that. Okay. And it changed my whole life. The beginning was horrible. About a third of the way in, I started to enjoy it. And it was still, I was playing I wasn't playing big. I wasn't out building it. I was just mostly taking care of me. Yeah. But it went from the worst experience of my life to one of the best years of my life. By the time I got to the end, for the first time in my life, I was really saying, I'm going to let all this go and take care of me. And I could really feel the benefits at the end. In the end, I got happier than I'd ever been. Synchronicity started to happen. Amazing things started to happen. My business partner showed up that was the perfect business partner for me. My life shot up bigger than it's ever been after that year, because I took that year off to heal everything that was going on inside me. And I did a lot of work on the mind and the body, endless hours of it, and that was probably one of the most challenging things I ever did. But I got to be honest, ever since then, life's been pretty amazing. So, because it's just like life got so much easier after I cleaned out my mind so much. Yeah. A lot of negative thoughts back then.
So as well as cleansing yourself, you were cleansing your body from the toxins and stuff like that. Did that have to do along with, like you were talking about, the gut problems and stuff like that?
Yeah, I went on a GAPS diet for a while. I didn't really understand diet back then. Okay. First I went on a fruitarian diet and I did a month of just eating fruit and cleansing. I didn't stay on it. And that was crazy. Then eventually the only food I started testing foods, and the only food I could figure out I could eat was just meat and vegetables if I ate regular food. Anything else made me sick. And I'd have one little black cup of coffee every day to keep my energy up. But if I had too much of that, I felt like shit. And so my whole life was just got really bland, and that brought me into a lot of depression because I had a lot of attachments to food. Yeah. So that year I was releasing all the attachments to food. At the same time, I'm physically detoxing. At the same time, I've got all my stories about success, life, money, because I came from poverty. Those all came up. And so it was literally kind of like everything at once. And after a lot of that let go, it was kind of so much easier to move forward in life. And then my gut started healing, and it got better and better every year since. And all these ailments started to go away, and this fatigue problem started to go away. And now I work out like crazy. I get up at 6 a.m. I have tons of energy. I never have all this stuff I had problems with my whole life. Energy and all, it's all gone. I'm generally happy. I travel the world. All of that shifted after that year. So
that's awesome, man. So you talked about how you cleansed yourself from negative thoughts and how you worked on your mind. And my next question is, how big is mindset in your life, and how big do you think it is in everybody's factor or role of life?
It's everything. Look, there's an old saying that how does it go? How much of it is action and how much of it is intention? What percentage out of 100%, people would say, right? And some people will say 60% action, 40% intention, 60% intention. Some people say 75% intention, 25% action. And I say it's 100% intention. Okay. That doesn't mean you don't take action. You definitely take action. But the more you can get your intention really clear and not let any distractions come in, okay, and waver it, and then get it into your body so your body gets excited. You have to fall in love with it. Okay. So the intention is to fall in love with it, and then the intention is to get turned on by it. Then the action is natural outcropping of the intention. It's inspired. You can't wait to get up in the morning and do work. You can't wait to get up and make things happen. That's why it's 100% intention. If you have resistance and you don't have a clear intention, then you need to add action in there, and it's going to be forced. And that's where the fight comes in. That's where you're like, I got to force myself. I need to listen to motivational videos every day. I need to stay pump myself up. That's when I had to drink all the rock stars to get excited to go to work. Now I don't have to do that to get excited to go to work. My body will naturally do it because I love it. And that's why I say it's 100% intention. But there's a process to getting to 100% intention. There's something I just read recently. It was Warren Buffett. He said something really cool, and it reminded me of Mark Zuckerberg. But okay. Warren Buffett said he has this 25-5 rule. I don't know if that's what he calls it, something like that. But he says, write down 25 things you most want to do. All right. And then pick the 5 top and do those 5 top. And then now your next job is to do everything you can to resist the other 20. Do not look at the other 20. Don't let them into your life. Get those 5 done. Because what most people do is they pick some things they want to do, but then they're constantly entertaining everything else, and their mind gets so divided and distracted that they can't get anything done. And so he's saying you got to know what your distractions are, and you got to get good at not be entertaining them, or you'll never get anywhere in life. And so find your top 5. And then Mark Zuckerberg, when he started Facebook, there's an old story about him. He was going to get to so many subscribers. It was 100 million, whatever it was. He wanted to get to a certain amount of subscribers on Facebook. That was his goal. And the whole business was built around that one singular goal. That's what his whole, the guy wore the same shirts every day, the ssame shoes every day. He didn't have he's like, no, all distractions out. This is all that matters. And people would come to meetings with him and say, I got this new great idea for Facebook. Let's do this. And he'd look, that goal would be right there. It's written on his desk in big letters. And he would say stuff like, does it get us to this many subscribers? Does it get us to this goal? If it doesn't, throw it out. I don't care how good it is. Okay. Does it help us get to this goal? Does it help? And everything was filtered through that goal. And everything else, no matter how great it was tossed out. Same basic idea as Warren Buffett. And I was notorious for I like this week, and I like that week. And, let's check this out now. Let's check that out now. And then you don't get anywhere when you do that. So. Yeah.
That's something I'm personally trying to work on right now. I mean, I have the podcast, I have my videos, and then I'm trying to write a book. So I'm trying to figure out how to do all of that, and then I have school, and I'm just trying to figure out where I need to focus and stuff.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of that is about emotion. I look at where am I most emotionally aligned? Where do I have that? Because the more I can get fall in love with something and then get turned on by it too, the easier it's going to be, and the more successful it's going to be. The more I have to fight to do something, the usually my nervous system, it's called the pain pleasure principle. The body is going to try to do stuff to get it out of my life, And it's very good at doing that. It's very good at making, like, this is a good thing for me to do. That's how people think. This is a good job. They hate it, but it's practical. This is a good girl for me to marry. I remember a guy did that once. I know. He's like, well, she'd be good for me. I'll fall in love with her someday. I'm like, what the fuck was that? You know? And I was like, and so this attitude, what happens is the nervous system builds resentment, anger, frustration, and it builds up in the nervous system. And then in time, that monster gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And as you associate more and more pain with the activity, the unconscious mind tries to do things to get the activity to fail and get it ultimately out of your life.
Yeah. That, I can't imagine saying that, though. Like, I'll fall in love with her one day.
Yeah. And my mom tried to say that to me too one time, many years ago. She said, "Oh, just pick a girl. You'll fall in love with it." She said the same exact thing. It blew my mind. I was like, "You just really say that to me, Mom?" No.
So my next thing is, with mindset being a big thing in your life and having to constantly keep that mindset, do you have any daily routines or habits that you follow to help you stay in focus and transition and keep you on your path?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I pretty much, I have a meditation, something that's loosely called releasing or letting go. I do that Sedona method, letting go. There's a great book called Letting Go by Hawkins, or the Sedona method by Hilda Waskin. They're both great. They're all on letting go. I have my own way of doing it, and I learned it from an individual. I didn't learn it from them. And so when he taught me, based on all the 4 years I spent studying subcommunication, movement, feeling work from my other friend, I kind of developed my own way of doing it, my own insights, and I started doing it like crazy. And then later I read these guys' books on how to do it, which gave me more insights. It actually kind of slowed me down for a bit, because it was kind of like I was going like gangbusters with it, got it, and then I put all these rules on it, and I had to strip the rules back away. But I still learned a lot from them. And so those are great books. But I do that every day. There's not a day that goes by. I'm doing it in the background. I'm doing it while I'm walking. I sit down and do it in deep meditation. I'll do a little meditation. And all my meditations, by the way, are about learning to, like Eckhart Tolle, learning to feel my body more and let go of all resistance in my body, rather than transcendental where I'm trying to leave my body and go somewhere. Like, I'll meditate up so I feel good, because the more you meditate out of your body, the better you feel. You get these really nice blissful states because you're not feeling all the resistance in your body. But then ultimately you got to come back down in your body, feel the resistance, and continue to release it. Otherwise, whatever the meditation doesn't integrate with your physical life. You don't take it with you to work. You don't take the benefits to work. You don't take the benefits to out to meet girls. You keep them separate. And I run into a lot of people that come to me that meditate a lot, and really meditation is stress reduction for them. Okay. And it's just learning to enjoy the tension of life, the stress of life, and seeing it as beautiful and integrating the two. And so a lot of my meditations are about getting deeper into the body, feeling the body, enjoying the body, walking, talking, moving from a place of enjoyment in that proactive vibration with life. And I think that has a lot to do with why my life has changed so much radically. Just in the last 5 years, 4 years, it has gone from, it just keeps skyrocketing up. So
that's awesome. So the last person that I was talking to was talking about how they do their meditation. So you were talking about how to release outwards and then pull back inwards, right?
Yeah, there's different things I do. There's a lot of different things I do, and it depends on what I feel that morning. And so I was describing 2 types of meditation when I said that. But what I basically do is I'll sit down and I'll relax, and I just start work on, the first thing I always do is work on feeling good.
Okay.
And if that means I have to just sit there and watch my breath for a few minutes, and then when I start to calm down, my mind calms down, then I start feeling the different parts of the body. I start going down through the parts that in Hindu mythology they call chakras, but we have, we just say the heart, the throat, and coming to my stomach, and I start feeling into my stomach a lot, because I had so much issues with my stomach. I start feeling into my pelvis, and I see if I can access a little turn on for life, not just for women, turn on for my business, heart, fall in love with your business, and then I come down to the legs, and I'm really just doing it generally. I'm not trying to do it with anything specific like my business at that time. Okay. And then after I've done that, and I'm more relaxed into my body, then I'll bring up specific things, like maybe I have a goal that I want to work on that day, and I'll bring up the goal. And if there's any resistance in any part of my body, my heart starts to, or my gut starts to do this, But then I just work on relaxing it and welcoming what's there first, and then can I relax that? Can I let that go? Can I soften that a little bit? And I don't care. My whole thing is 1% improvement is improvement to be celebrated. And I look for every day. I look for another 1%, another 1%. I don't look for quantum leaps. That doesn't mean you don't get quantum leaps, right? They come from the 1%. If you just focus on the 1% and say, yeah, that changed a little bit, that changed a little bit, that changed a super tiny amount, but that's awesome because that's beginning to change now. I couldn't feel it before. Then what happens is one day you just naturally get a quantum leap, and you don't even have to. It's just normal. And then they start coming faster and faster because you're not chasing them. You chase a dog, it runs away. So you chase a girl, she runs away. And it's the same thing. You're not chasing these quantum leaps, and they just start showing up at your doorstep. And so that's my process. I always get good feel. I never work on my goals until I'm feeling good. I don't even look at them until I'm feeling. It's just a little bit, at least content. At least not any. I don't want to be in resistance. I don't want to open it and force myself. My book where I have all my goals written. I want to open that book and whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to look at them and read them. I want to make sure that my body's got a little buzz or a little tingle in it, from my meditation. So that I associate. That's the pleasure principle from the pain pleasure principles. Then I'm associating pleasure with my goal and my nervous system, and then my body wants to move towards it.
Cool. So, what would be 3 tips that you have for somebody in your industry, Brian?
And specifically in the coaching industry, or that wants to be a dating coach or a confidence coach, does it matter?
No, I feel like they're all different, but I feel like they all kind of have the same gist.
Okay. The first one is there's a really good book by a man named Jeff Olson, who I really respect, really grounded, solid man. It's called Slight Edge. He was known as the Millionaire Maker. And for somebody who's just starting in business, I always recommend they read that book. And the reason I recommend they read it is it's all about compounding interest in life, not just in money, but how we use consistency to create everything in life. And that book breaks it down like no other book I've ever seen. It's so insightful. I've had teachers out there that say, "Oh, go for the quantum leap. You can have it yet today." And this guy says, "Don't go for the quantum leap. Go for the slight edge. These tiny little changes every day, doing innocuous things you think don't matter, but get so consistent at them that they compound into a huge growth one day." And that's exactly the principle I've used to create everything. And I do believe you can get the quantum leap because Jeff Olson then also says, he says, screw the quantum leap. But if you look at compounding interest, you always get the quantum leap. Now, the other part he illustrates is so powerful in this book, and this is what most business people do. They avoid the tension. They don't do the little tiny innocuous things that step into the tension. They do things to avoid the tension every day. Or they do little tiny innocuous things to compound down into a failure. Like with diet, it's like, this donut doesn't matter today. It's like, it's not going to one donut's not going to put much weight on me. And they're absolutely 100% right. But that donut compounds because it leads to another donut and another donut and another donut. And next thing you know, you're 50 pounds fatter, wondering what the hell happened to your life, because you lost control of your diet and your food. Your thoughts took off, started seeing more and more food. You got insulin rushes and cravings. So that in business is huge. Getting out, starting a business. It's you start a YouTube channel. You think your videos aren't doing much. You're not getting much response, and you're like, I should quit. No. You barely got started. You haven't compounded enough to see any results yet. You got to just keep putting it out there and exploring different ideas, and be willing to play small for a while so you can play big later. If you get a few more subscribers this week, that's huge. That can lead to 100 more subscribers in a week, then 1,000 more subscribers in a week. And then boom, you just take off one day. And that's the whole compounding interest principle. So to me, that's one of the biggest, most important pieces that a person can do. Number 2 is have a daily or a morning ritual. A daily ritual where you actually get yourself centered. Where you actually get your body focused and relaxed. You're not stressed. You're not worried about the day. That is huge too, because a lot of people just get up and start rushing. And if you want to get all the reactiveness out of your body, you don't want to be rushing through anything. You want to take your time. You don't want to do 50 things in a day. You want to take your time and do a few things well. Don't try to do everything at once. Do a few things so well that they become and eventually become automatic and systematized, and then add another thing.
Yeah.
You know, everyone wants to do everything at once. Don't do everything at once. If you're a seminar company, get your seminars solid before you build a bunch of online platforms.
Mhm.
Or if you're an online platform, build online platforms and then start adding seminars. If you're, you know, if you're right now, you're all focused on writing books, write a few good books, get them out there, and then build maybe another business off those books, you know. But what everybody does is I'm going to do it all at once. And then they get scattered and they lost. So that's another one. And another one, it's all about eliminating confusion and making it easy and flow. So another one that I really like that's super simple is plan your next day the night before you go to bed. Like write down, have your book ready, everything you're going to do, write it down, what's your day. So you get up in the morning, you don't have to go, what am I doing today?
Okay.
You know, you can sit down, do your morning ritual, and you know your day is going to start after that. And don't put too much on there. Do your most important tasks first. Keep it simple. Have them written down. Know what they are. And that's that. Cause again, it comes all back to focus and resisting all the distractions. You know, that's the next thing is make a list of your distractions and then make a conscious effort to let them all go. You know, so that you can stay focused on what you're doing. You know, because you do these basic things, and I'll tell you, the average person will have to fight it first because it goes against everything they believe. Then your whole life will change. There's one other principle that I love to talk about. I don't hear many people say, but let's say you want to be a millionaire. Globally, how many people make over $1 million globally? Not in the United States globally, but in the United States it's going to be a higher number. But globally, it's 0.7% of the world makes over $1 million. Okay, so that means that globally, 99.3% of the world does not know what they're talking about when it comes to making over $1 million. Yet, we will go out there, get a great idea, and ask everybody we know what they think, and people will listen. And the worst part is if we don't even ask them, we go out to start a business, everybody will be telling us, don't do this, don't do that. And we start to get worried. We start to believe them. We take what they're saying is we let it in like it means something. And 99.3% of the people are doing it all wrong, or they'd be millionaires in that area. Or they'd be millionaires. And so that means you should only be listening to 0.7% of the population. That also means that if you listen to only 0.7% of the population, the bulk of the world is going to tell you you're crazy. And that's a good indicator you're probably going in the right direction. And so when I saw that, that's how I figured out all kinds of things. I said, you know, only a small percentage of the planet probably really knows how to heal their gut. The rest are just fighting at it and spinning in circles. A small percentage of people know how to get good with women, and the rest are just screwing around with it. And I really stopped listening to most people. And I'd say, do you have the credentials? And the credentials do not mean the education. You can have a marketing degree, a business degree from the best university in the world, but if you don't have results,
You don't have.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't care where you're. I remember I worked for this guy. He was a really successful director of TV commercials. Made tons of money. Felix. Felix said to me one day. I said we were hiring some people for a project, and I was working for him many years ago. And he said, I was showing him some resumes, and he said he was looking at this one guy, and he had I think it was New York Film School. He had all these degrees in film. Yeah. And he looked at me and said, I don't care about these degrees. I said, what do you mean? He goes, they start at the bottom just like I did, whether they got a degree or not. He says the degree doesn't matter. If they don't have results, I don't care. All I care is what they've actually done in the real world. And if they have no education at all, but they've got all these projects they've completed successfully, that's what matters. He says, otherwise they start at the bottom. And I said, so what you're saying is don't go to film school. You know, I was thinking to myself, and just get started right away. And that's kind of how film works, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what matters. And, you know, you could say the same thing about a doctor or a lawyer. They have to go to school by law. But when they get out, maybe they went to a great school, and they may get into a good firm, but they still have to start at the bottom. They have to work their way up, you know, and that's how it works.
Very true. I like how you're talking about like the craziness. I was saying like if you want to be different from everybody else, you can't fit in with everybody else. Like
Exactly.
So what's something that you're working on right now, Brian, or something that you're looking forward to work on that's coming up soon that like you're really pumped and really energetic for?
Well, I'm kind of pumped for the. I'm taking off to Europe for a while to enjoy myself, but that's what I'm most pumped for right now. But I've been working like crazy and traveling all over. I'm on the road more than I'm at home. My home is more of a crash pad. I actually just rented an apartment in Kiev, so I'll be there for a bit and so I'm hanging out with some friends. But the thing that I'm most excited about is we've been training. Fearless is really growing a lot, and we're doing workshops all the time. And we have 3 coaches I spent the last year really doing intensive work with that are really taking over a lot of the dating workshops, except for the advanced ones. I still do the advanced ones. And so that's amazing because they are really good at what they do. One of my pet peeves was I'd see these dating companies and they'd train somebody over a weekend and then they'd say, okay, you're ready to be a coach. And I'd be like, and I see this with hypnosis too. Here's your weekend hypnosis certificate, and I hang it on the wall and become a hypnotist. I put these guys through hell for over a year of just constant. They had to be at every workshop. They had to work. They had to train. They had to learn, and they're really good at what they do now. And so they're helping to take that over. So that gives me more space to start to create more online content. But really, what I'm excited about is our energetic embodiment programs, which are all about success, abundance, creating, learning to control your reality, learning to focus your mind and on a practical, real level, not some, we can take metaphysical concepts or abstract concepts, but we break them down to a practical, fundamental level that makes sense. And we take all the mysticism off and we take so that you get it. Yeah. And so you can embody it. And that's what I'm really excited about. I've been doing those workshops, versions of those workshops for the last few years. And I love doing them, but now we're going to be able to move them into a large scale, men, women, big scale, and really advance them a lot and keep taking these teachings to the next level. And who knows, I may even create a YouTube channel just for that, because that's what excites me the most is becoming being on the leading edge of my own reality, creating my own reality. Creating my life the way I want. People always say you can create anything you want, and that's true, but it does take a certain level. It's like a surfer on a wave. You got to learn to balance on that surfboard. You go too far one way, too far the other way. You got to work within the laws of the universe, natural laws like law of relativity, law of polarity, law of cause and effect. And when you understand all these principles and what they feel like in your body, not what they're like in your head, you understand how they work in and through your body, because your body's your vehicle in the physical world, then you'd be surprised at how much you can create, how much you can manifest, what you can do with your life, whether it's dating, money, health, healing. I've had to do it all, by the way. I was terrible with women. I was terrible with health. I was terrible with money. I had it all modeled terribly. It was bad. And so that's largely why I'm excited to teach this stuff, because my life came from a mess to where it's at now, and also keeping yourself young and healthy your whole life. I mean, that's super important too. I don't want people to grow older and think, oh, now I have to sit now my life's over. No, just be 60, 70 years old, be out there tearing it up. What do you want to do? There's no reason to ever stop, and until you'll stop when you're dead. Stop having fun when you're dead. That's what I mean. Not push, but having fun, enjoying life, making life easy and fun. And that's when you're no longer, it's a polarity thing. When you're no longer afraid of tension, you're no longer afraid of the tension of life, then life becomes fun and easy. When you run from the tension because you think it's stressful and it's bad and it's gonna wear you out, then life becomes difficult because you're constantly pushing back on it, and then it pushes back on you. And that's a basic polarity thing. So
yeah, that's something I'm working on right now. I watched your video of the 7 principles, and I've watched like a lot of stuff. And my thing right now is focusing on, rather than overthinking about it, because I have a very OCD mindset where like I just consume myself in thoughts, and trying to work on actually practicing it and making it reality. Because I feel like I know all the information, but applying it is the part where it's just like trying to figure out, because I was bad with girls. I'm getting better. My health, I need to work on. Like, I'm literally allergic to everything, and I have an
It's usually a gut issue. Most allergies are histamine response because of gut damage, and what's happening is particles of food are usually getting into your bloodstream through leaky gut or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great information out there today. Today, there's better information than ever before on how to clean that up fast. Whereas when I was young, man, nobody knew what the hell they were talking about. It was bad. And so I wish I knew. God, if I knew what I knew today back then, it would have been a no-brainer. I could have healed up so fast, and so there's a lot of resources I can give you on that if you want, but yeah. And I always tell people, most people today have gut damage to some degree. It's because of all the GMOs and the stuff in food that we put in the air, and there's just so many toxins in the environment, and so much modification of food and manipulation that our guts are confused. That's the best way to put it. They're just confused, and so cleaning that up's huge.
So when did you decide the 9 to 5 job wasn't your thing? Like, oh, I'm not gonna work for somebody else. Like, I need to create my own job. I need to create my own business.
Well, I remember I left the 9 to 5 in my early to mid 30s. I just walked away. I had already gone to hypnosis school, but I wasn't practicing because I didn't have the self-esteem for it. I just thought I would use it to work on my own mind, and one day I just couldn't take it anymore. I was sitting in my cubicle, in my boring ass cubicle, miserable, looking at everybody, saying, these people have been here 10, 20 years, and look at them, and I don't want to be like them. And I was scared to leave because I knew I couldn't get a better job with higher pay because I didn't have any real skill sets. And then somebody came along, and they had a tech startup at the time, and they said, hey, you want to come work for us? And, we can't pay you much. We'll pay your bills. And I said, that's all I need.
Yeah.
I don't need as much money. And so I left. I was out of there fast, and it all fell apart. It all went wrong. And but I was on the road. I was traveling. I was doing stuff. I was moving around. And I ended up getting my car repossessed, my credit damaged. Nothing worked out, and it was the best move I ever made, because it got me over the fear of being out there, and I realized I could survive it all. And after I got past that, I bounced from different jobs for a while, but I never went back into a standard 9 to 5. I always took temp jobs, and then I just kept looking and trying different things for a number of years. Even worked in the film industry for a while, like I talked about. Okay. And finally, I got fed up with all that, and I quit and moved into a yoga community for a year. That was an interesting year of my life. It was a crazy, eccentric, eclectic yoga community with all kinds of crazy people, from artists to yogis to everything. I lived in community for a year, with that I could write a book alone on that experience.
Yeah.
The weird stuff that went on there, but it showed me there were lots of people living outside the 9 to 5, because there were lots of straight massage therapists, people doing stuff like that there. And after a year of being there, I knew I had to get out, because I didn't feel they were overall good for my health, or at the deepest level, that just wasn't right. So I left there, and I needed more grounding. I was too much of a nice guy. I was that new agey nice guy at that time, hippy dippy nice guy, and I wanted to break that energy up. So after I left there, I just went on a search. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? And eventually, I ended up in the hypnosis clinic, because I had the hypnosis certificate, and I ran out of options. I needed money, and randomly, I was literally praying, and then right after I prayed, I got this intuitive hit to go online and check this website, and I found a job for a hypnotist, which is never out there. You work for yourself as a hypnotist. And then I was like, I called up. They hired me right away on the phone, and everything kind of went. I worked for them for a year, and then I went out on my own and never took another job since. It gave me, the year with them gave me the courage to go start my own self-help business. And so there's a loud hissing in the back, not hissing, but buzzing.
Is that me? Or is that? I wasn't sure, because I heard that, but
there's nothing in my environment that's making that noise. So it's either online or.
Yeah, I think it might be online. Do you want to maybe we can hang up and then start another call and just finish the. Okay.
Still good. You want to call me?
Yeah, I'll call you.
And then my whole life kind of, just started taking off from there. The next phase was interesting, because once I went out to work for myself after working at the hypnosis center for a year, I tried to buy it. It failed. I lost a bunch of money, but that was okay. And then I went out to work for myself, and I spent basically a year not knowing how to run a business, not having the courage, not courage. I did have the courage. I was doing it, but not knowing how to manage it, not knowing what to do, being confused, and basically sleeping in my friend's place. He gave me free rent in trade for hypnosis services while I figured it out. And I'd make just enough to pay the rent, and not pay the rent, but to eat and to pay my bills. And for that year, again, it was a blast, even though I was barely above broke. But I was actually on that. I was exploring stuff that I really wanted to explore and figuring it out, and that's what made it exciting. It was better to be just above broke than it was to have a bunch of money stuck in a 9-to-5 that you hate. And then from there, I got a business partner, and we started doing workshops, and those started to take off. And then I got rid of the business partner, and it's kind of, there was a few years of ups and downs, and then finally there was that one year, all the down stopped. It's when I surrendered my last story about, how hard it is to make money and the belief that I have to struggle, and then everything just took off from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had reached a point where I was perfectly comfortable with losing everything repeatedly. I mean, literally, I was like, I would much rather live on the street or in the gutter going after my dreams than I would sitting in a job I hate. And that's when my life turned around. And it took a little while, but that's when my life turned around. And because I went through a little bit of the ups and downs, and then but I figured it out. So it's not even figuring it out. It's just getting the fear and the stories and the worry and the doubt out of your bodies, because it's really not that hard. You start to see the answers once you get all the fear out. You fear it enough, you have big fear, you're going to start to create it.
Yeah.
The chronic worries, they kind of sit in the background. They can create stuff if they're all over the long term. But big fears, you pull those into your life, right? Because what you focus on expands, and you're unconsciously focusing on your big fears by pushing them away so hard. And so these big fears, when you first surrender to them and say, I don't care what happens, they come up. They have to be weeded out of your garden. They're coming up out of the soil, out of the unconscious, because now I'm facing it. And so I had to spend a little bit of time facing those fears and pulling them, but to keep moving forward anyways. And then when they finally died enough, my life started to go like this, Yeah. And it did. And the first time it went like this really nicely. It took off but I hadn't got all the fears out yet. I had them in the background. I was pushing. That's when I was drinking all the rock stars to keep it going. And so that's when I had to take another year off to clean all that up. And then it's been like this ever since. So.
Do you have you seen Gary Vee before? Have you watched any of his content? Yeah,
I read his first book, Crushing It, and back when he was Gary Vaynerchuk, and I watched him on Wine Library years ago, and I've seen a few videos of him.
So I feel like a mixture of some of the stuff that he says, and I've heard from other people, and kind of what Steve Jobs said, how once you realize that everything around you is created by nobody who is smarter, nobody greater than you, they're just as equal as you.
Yeah.
The idea of Gary, where he says we put stuff on pedestals and we look up to it, and that's kind of how I feel with fear is we put things on pedestals, and once we realize there's no reason to fear because we're just the same as what we're fearing, or that idea of it being too good for us is we're just able to overcome it.
Everything is easy. There's a great teacher, and if you haven't looked him up, his name is Walter Russell. He's from the early 1900s. He's born in late 1800s, I think, lived into the mid 1900s. And he was successful at so many things, it's almost ridiculous. I don't think there's any man that I can think of that did more things and went to the top. And his whole life took off. He was amazing at what he did. And he said, and I'm going to paraphrase, I don't remember how he said it or the words, but he said basically everything is easy. Everything is easy. And it's easy for anybody. We just don't realize it. We make it hard with our egos and our fear and our doubt and our worry, and we believe it and we buy into the stories that it's difficult. And he says, so what he made it his life's mission to do was that I think it was every 7 years or so, he would switch his career and go to the top and in whatever field he was in to show everybody how easy it was. So he says, I'm not doing this to be better. I'm doing this to show you can all do it.
Yeah.
And the funny part is nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, I've never heard.
Yeah, and here's the cool thing. I think I don't think it's cool, but I think it's kind of sad. Is I think he's not famous because he didn't have drama.
True.
Yeah, Tesla had a lot of drama. I mean, he's an amazing man, super intelligent, brilliant, but Tesla had a lot of drama, right? And so we all know who Tesla was, right? And interesting, him and Tesla were good friends. And Tesla thought he was a genius. So when Tesla thinks you're a genius, you're pretty freaking smart. And so you check him out. There's a really good book. I tell everybody to read it. I used to give them away. I used to keep extra copies. It's tiny. and it's just a good little giveaway. Is The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe, written by Glenn Clark, and it's a little synopsis of the life story of Walter Russell, and it's just such a neat read. You can find it on Amazon or someplace like that, probably for $5 or something like that.
Definitely check that out.
Or you get the download for $3 probably. And he's and philosophy.org is the website dedicated to all his work. He was a big author too. He wrote tons of books.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question is, Brian, what is your dream? What is your goal? What were you sent here to accomplish?
I just think, and I don't like the term teacher, but I think I'm here to just continue to teach this stuff that I realize. It's all realizations. It's not like I figure it out. It all comes to me. I meditate and it comes to me. And I just think that's my life's mission is like I feel alive when I'm teaching. It's funny, in dating coaching, I saw a lot of people come and go. They burn out within 4 or 5 years, and they don't want to do it anymore, and then they go on, and then they just want to, they try to automate their business, or they just shut it down. And I always see them. They become really burned out, and I look at them and I think to myself, it's because you don't love teaching.
Yeah.
I don't ever burn out. I burn out from working maybe a little too much, but I never burn out from the work.
Okay.
I've been known to overwork because I love what I do, and then I need to take a break.
Yeah.
But I always want to come back to it. I never want to stop. So it really comes down to helping people raise their consciousness as much as humanly possible. Whether it's around dating, whatever it's around, whatever they want to, and helping them go after their dreams as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. Helping them be more powerful as human beings. And when I mean hurt anybody, this is really important too. There's a large, nice guy SJW community in the world today. It's all about making everybody happy. That's not what I mean by not hurt anybody.
Yeah.
I mean by becoming as real as humanly possible and being honest with people.
Yeah.
And being open with people. And that might mean that you hurt somebody's feelings, but it helps them to grow.
Okay.
I don't mean don't be as nice as humanly possible for the fear of hurting somebody's feelings. I mean being real, getting to the point where you're so real and so honest that and you're not intentionally hurting anybody. Yeah, sometimes people get upset by what you say, but they can grow from it. They can learn from it. They can take it home with them. That's what I mean. I want to help people get to that level. More and more people live like that. So.
Yeah, I think that's true. I feel the same way, where it's hard because you're trying not to offend somebody, because nowadays, like, anything that you say can take misconstrued, and then normally the people that don't think like, oh, what I say, like, I'll just say what I want to say, normally those are the people that are actually saying stuff to hurt people. So it's like trying to figure out that balance of like, I'm doing this in intentions to help you, not to hurt you, and some people might come out hurt from it, but you're just telling the truth rather than you're telling something to put them down.
What's your honest truth about this, and what do you feel at a deep level? Like, if you get really into feeling, which means get really embodied and get low into your body, you'll be surprised at the wisdom that'll come out of people. Yeah. And people need to learn the difference between their ego and what's feeling, what's coming up, what's contemplative and coming up as like, say this, and what's coming from here, say this. This is all about thinking. This is all the gut brain will bring stuff up from feeling and show it to you. And those are the people that take off in the world. When they talk, they speak, they sing, they dance, they write, it comes through them. They're not creating it. They're more like, for lack of a better term, I don't want to say anything too new agey, but they're more of channels for the information. Yeah. And those are the people that create the most change in the world, the most success. And you see all these great, it's flow state. They go into a flow state and then they let it happen. And they take the ride, and that's what makes it fun, because they're on a ride. They're on a roller coaster ride in flow state and of creation and creating, and they're on the leading edge of creation, and they're creating new things, and it's coming through them, and so they're the conduit from. And again, it's going to sound a little new agey, but from the non-physical that doesn't exist yet to the physical, and they're a conduit for it, and that's what I believe. Our human bodies are conduits from non-physical to physical, and we're on a ride in them, watching everything happen. And that's when we're the most successful, when our egos get wrapped in it and we start thinking all the time, and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make this happen, then that's when problems start to arise, and because you cut off that flow. If you say I am going to do this, then the me here, not the me that then
Yeah.
everything's cut off.
Yeah, I feel like everything's kind of already there. It's just when you choose to open yourself up to it, that's when it comes to you.
Yeah, very much so. There's interesting. There's another that brings me back to Walter Russell. He wrote a lot of books on science, a few books on science, and he called it Russellian science at the time. I think it was around 1950 or maybe a little before. It was actually probably a little before. And it's a lot of. If you look at it now, it looks a lot like quantum physics, but it was way back then. Amazing stuff. His thing was he wanted to show everybody how easy it is to understand the universe and how everything works. And so he said, I decided I was going to write these books on science and show it to people because to him it just all made sense, and that's why he could produce so much. And he said, I went to read the current textbooks on science that were out there from all the scientists, and I realized there's no way they're going to accept my teachings. There's no way the community, because their textbooks were so complex, he said, they made it so complicated that he knew their egos were all wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
In essence, look, I can understand this stuff nobody else can understand, and I know it's difficult for you to understand, but look, I'm a specialist at it. I'm the best. That was pride, ego. And he said, so I just wrote the books, put them out there, and I moved on. That's what he did. But now people are looking at him today, and they're like blown away about what he had known way back in the day. So.
It's simplicity. If it's overcomplicated, it's probably not true. It's like, so if you can provide it a simple way, then you're going to be able to create it for more people to be able to achieve greatness, I feel.
Yeah. What creates complexity is fear, doubt, worry, shame, guilt. All these are heavy emotions. They're what make it hard for you to learn, accomplish, start a business, get your website up. It's not the website itself. It's not the actions. The actions are all very easy to do and fun. It's your negative emotions between you and the doing of the activity. And when you get those negative emotions out, you'll naturally inspired action takes over, and you enjoy what you're doing. And this is what successful people know, and they've always known.
Yeah. So, my next question is, Brian, what is your number one piece of advice for life? What is something that you feel is that you live by? Like, if you were to give somebody one piece of advice to live for, what would that be?
The number one thing is happiness, joy. Like, the more joy you create in your body, not by leaving your body, not by but the more joy you create feeling through your whole body, the easier and better your life's going to become, and the more you're going to help other people. And think about it for a minute. Would you rather have $1 million and be miserable, or would you rather have enough to get by and live in joy and bliss? Now, some people might take the million, but if they actually experienced both and got to choose after experiencing both, they would always pick the joy.
Yeah.
And the joy can take you to the million really fast if you let it. Whereas the misery can take you to poverty overnight.
Yeah.
And so being happy now, something Lester Levinson said is, there's a book, I think it's called Happiness is Free, but what did he say? Be happy now? But he might have. But his whole goal when he was working on himself was just to be happy. His whole life turned around because he made his number one goal every day, all day, was to be happy, and he thought happiness was giving away love. So he worked on loving everybody, and by doing that, he turned his whole life around. Yeah. He was in shambles, and that became his whole goal. And so he did it 24 hours a day, and in 3 months, he had his whole life turned around. And so, to me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I feel like if you think about it too, with the $1 million and choosing to be happy and get by, is like, why do you want the $1 million in the first place? Because you think it's going to make you feel happy.
Exactly. And it doesn't work. There was a time, I remember one time in my life, I'd started my business, and this is when I was still drinking all the vodkas and the Red Bulls, and it was the first time I ever made a lot of money, the most money I ever made.
Okay.
I made about $30,000 in 1 month, just shy of 29,000 some dollars. I was hustling, working my ass off, and I couldn't believe I did it. I was shocked because I came from poverty. And then I looked around and I was miserable. I felt like shit. My body felt like shit. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. Then I looked at all the work that was ahead of me because I made all this money that I had to do. because of all the servicing of clients and things like this, and I didn't care. I just didn't care. And that's when I realized it was all about, I had to work on me and my happiness and feeling good. So I should give you another example. Whenever I have a problem in my life or a challenge and I go to hustle to solve it, usually I work hard and it doesn't solve itself very easily, or it's really hard. As soon as I stop and meditate and clean up my thinking, get happy, get free, get to the point where I'm happy whether the problem solves itself or not, all the solutions just walk in the door. And it's like, it gets so much easier to solve. And I've made that mistake so many times. I'm going to push my way through. No, stop. Let's clean up the thinking and mostly really the emotions and the feeling around this goal, and then we'll go forward again. And then it's just solutions come out of the woodworks. Because they were always there. They were always in front of me. I just wasn't seeing them. I was blind to them.
So my last thing is, Brian, is there any shout outs, anything that you would like the podcast people on DeVante Talks With Success to go and check out of yours?
Just check out our YouTube channel. It's filled with amazing content, on youtube.com/thefearlessman. And we have a website with our blog and links to everything else for our Instagram, which is thefearlessman.com. So feel free to check those two things out, and you can find a lot of great information there. There's even, if you got questions about anything we do, there's even a chat box. I believe it's still there on the website that a lot of our coaches are, they have hours during the day that they'll answer stuff from it and things like that. And so check all that stuff out. So.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here. I know we don't know each other, and I just reached out via DM on Instagram and got your email and hooked up, but I really appreciate you being able to talk with me. And yeah,
I love doing these, and I especially love doing these for people that like yourself, they're just getting started, but they're figuring it out, that are curious, they're inquisitive, that want to build a business, because that's what my business is all about, helping people like you take off and actually become the next Joe Rogan someday or something like that. That's what I want to see. I want to see a bunch of my clients killing it out there all over the planet, doing amazing things, and there's already a bunch of them doing amazing things. And so, and people I don't know, people who've just watched the YouTube videos, or just, that's the whole idea. So I'm glad to do it. So.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Hope you have a great night.
Yeah, you too, man. Take care.
Take care.